Linebacker Devin White has requested a trade from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And despite years of PFF calling him one of the worst starters in the league and the fan base souring on him, the Buccaneers don't want to part with Devin White. Why? I try to explain his extremely strange career in this video, what makes him so useful for the Buccaneers, what his flaws are, and at the end of the day, what I would do if I was Tampa. So let's get started. I think I can explain Todd Bowles' affinity for Devin White with this one-play summary. Todd Bowles is one of the most blitz-happy coaches in the entire league, and on this one, it looks like he's got another one of those signature blitzes dialed up. But you never know who's actually rushing and who's dropping back into coverage. But there's an opportunity for a big play here as long as everybody's at the line of scrimmage. So they run this tight end vertically, and at the end of the day, it is going to be Devin White's job to carry him up that seam. There's not a lot of linebackers in the league who can get back there so fast and cover 84. He's one of those guys. And if you're Todd Bowles and you're going to be running plays where guys have to cover a lot of ground, you need a linebacker like Devin White for this all to work. And when Bowles does blitz him, it's very productive. He led all linebackers in pressures with 33 this year. Last year, he was just behind Parsons, who was obviously a bit of a hybrid, and he had 49. The year before that, he was second behind Demario Davis. The thing you got to keep in mind about White is he's just the perfect potential centerpiece for this defense, and I'm sure Todd Bowles wants so desperately for it to work out. And we've seen it all work out before. The 2020 playoffs are widely regarded as the best stretch of play in Devin White's career. I would tend to agree. A lot of people accuse him of coasting off of that success. I would tend to agree. But he really did look like the next great linebacker in that stretch. On this play, the Saints are going to be running an outside split zone where you've got this wide receiver working across the formation and then all the linemen taking a simultaneous step to the left with Alvin Kamara aiming towards the outside hip of the tight end. And initially, Devin White is reading this and he's flowing with the play here, scraping laterally along the line, but he knows that he's got this open B gap. And when Kamara sees him scraping that way, he's going to cut back into this open space. So he quickly diagnoses what's going on. He anticipates what Kamara is going to do. And then after taking a few steps that way, he plants this outside foot, cuts back inside, falls into that B gap. Kamara cuts that way just a step later, and White's already there, pops up out of nowhere in the hole, and wrestles him down. So on this play, the Saints are trying to stretch the secondary horizontally with 3 vertical routes. So all of these secondary players have to make a choice on which one to take. And when White starts backpedaling to carry Michael Thomas, and Michael Thomas attracts the attention of this safety, and the tight end takes the attention of this corner, it looks like there is going to be a lane for Kamara to escape through up the seam. Breeze decides to take that shot, but even though Devin White is backpedaling, he's reading Breeze's eyes. As soon as Breeze starts that throwing motion, he drives into the throwing lane of Kamara, picks it off, great recognition, and then a great return as well. He was also able to stick with Kamara on a Texas route in man coverage, and he wasn't perfect in coverage during these playoffs, but you could tell he was starting to figure things out. And then his last play of the season was in the Super Bowl with 1:33 left. He guards Kelsey, breaks up the ball, and picks it to seal the game. And that's how he caps off his season. The hype really exploded after that. He was ranked the 28th best player in the entire NFL. That offseason, ESPN ran a poll where they talked to 50 people around the league, and Devin White emerged as the consensus best linebacker in the entire league. Even though White wasn't the most consistent linebacker that year, it does make sense why people were ready to crown him after that playoff run. After all, he was the 5th overall pick. This was always what he was supposed to be. He had 9 sacks in the regular season, and then in the playoffs, he averaged 13 tackles a game. He picked up 2 fumbles, and he had 2 interceptions while he was guarding Alvin Kamara and Travis Kelsey. If you're wondering why White has the audacity to ask for a huge contract, it's because of this time period. He declared himself the best linebacker in the league. Everyone was telling him he's the best linebacker in the league. It seems like in the years since 2020, White hasn't really grown as a player, but that doesn't mean it's all bad stuff. He still has some really high-end plays. On this play, it looks like PJ Walker is going to throw a tunnel screen out to the wide receiver, but White doesn't bite on that. He's got his eyes locked on Chuba Hubbard, the running back, and indeed, this is a delayed screen to him, and now he's releasing out with 2 blockers out in front of him. It looks like 63 has an angle to potentially cut off Devin White, but White is just so fast that he easily burns that angle, speeds past the lineman, and is able to make the tackle on the sideline. Running outside is still a dangerous proposition against the Bucs because oftentimes linemen can't climb in time to reach him because he just is so fast in a straight line. He still has flashes of a 3-down sideline to sideline heat-seeking missile, and he's also the second most effective pass rusher on the team. However, White has not cut out the hero ball mental lapses that have plagued him since he was a rookie. This is similar to a play that I showed a couple clips before. There's a screen to Chuba Hubbard. He's recognizing it, and he, again, tries to speed past 63 to make a play out on the perimeter. But he doesn't need to do that here. Number 30 is there to clean this up or force it inside to White. But White abandons this lane and ends up just decking his own guy here. And he is very lucky that Chuba Hubbard didn't do more with this run once he cut it inside. Here's another outside run, and Devin White is lined up over this B gap bubble. There's no one in this gap. But at the snap of the ball, 92, I believe that's Golson, kind of fires forward straight ahead. And since the line is moving laterally, going straight ahead means he falls into this B gap bubble. You can see that's where he's got the leverage. That's where he's peeking inside too. So if he's got this B gap, White has to make him right. He's going to take the C gap now. That's where there's no one. That's his responsibility. But once Pacheco starts stutter stepping like he's going to cut inside, White abandons his assignment to make the tackle. He falls back even though Sanat, 95 the nose tackle, is already in this gap ready to make a tackle. There's 2 people in there now, White and 95. Here's where White is supposed to be, and guess where Pacheco ends up hitting? Right through there, and turns this into a decent chunk run. It's 4th and 1 here, and the Bucs call man coverage trying to get an incompletion. Everyone's manned up across the board, and Devin White's assignment is the running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Edwards-Helaire does not for a second look like he's staying into block. Okay, he immediately gets out into this wheel route, but Devin White just is kind of half-heartedly going after Mahomes and leaving his assignment absolutely wide open on this 4th and 1. He's lucky Edwards-Helaire dropped it, but this would have been an explosive play just because he didn't know what he was doing out there. That's what it seems like. And these kinds of things were happening early in his career, even during that playoff run, but I think everyone just kind of assumed as he plays more games, this kind of stuff will go away and we'll just be left with this freak athlete, but it hasn't gone away. Here's Todd Bowles talking about Devin White during the 2021 offseason. So this was after the playoff run that got Devin White established as the best linebacker in the league.
No, he's still capable of a lot more, but it's a luxury to have a guy that can play 3 downs and play everything well, and as far as body position and understanding run schemes and everything else, he's gotten a lot better at all those things, but he still needs to grow more, and he should because it's only going into his 3rd year, but it's a luxury to have both those guys that can do all those things, and you don't have to worry about bad matchups.
That was a mostly positive clip from Bowles. Obviously, he loves White's athleticism, his ability to execute any assignment, and the fact that that means that he can be on the field 100% of the time and Bowles doesn't have to worry about it. But he did say that White has the potential to get way better, and he needs to get better specifically at recognizing running schemes and getting his body in the right position. He noted that White was just going into his 3rd year and would probably be way better in the future at that, but it hasn't happened. He still struggles with those things. On this play, the Cowboys are running duo, so they're going to build double teams on these defensive tackles. That is going to open up a big hole in this A gap. White should be in that hole. Instead, he drifts outside and gives Zach Martin an easy angle to block him. So Martin disengages, blocks White. White can't get to Pollard, and Pollard runs for about 10 yards and gets the Cowboys into field goal range. Well, White is still a super explosive downhill player. He hasn't gotten any better since 2021 when it comes to meeting tackles at the point of attack and actually shedding the contact. He frequently loses or gets hung up and driven downfield in those situations. His effort also leaves a bit to be desired. He was kind of famously skewered by Bucs legend Warren Sapp for his effort on this play. There's a little screen, and as the backside linebacker, he is just jogging, saying, "That's not my problem," and watching as Robinson breaks free and runs up the sideline for a first down. We know that if he was running as fast as he's capable of running, he could have cleaned that up easily. In the middle of this disappointing and frustrating season, Todd Bowles had a quote where he said, "I think guys that are living off the Super Bowl are living in a fantasy land. You've got to get your hands dirty and go to work like everyone else." And this is not specifically directed towards Devin White. He doesn't mention that it's about Devin White, but I think when you look at everything that's happened to him, this seems to maybe describe Devin White exactly. When has Devin White ever been held accountable for his weaknesses as a player by the institution of the NFL? PFF has obviously done it. They think he's terrible. Fans have done it. But as far as the NFL goes, they've always known his weaknesses. Check out his scouting report. Instincts are very average, can be fooled by play fakes. Coaxed out of position, made the same mistake twice in the same game. Diagnosis can run behind. Gets caught behind climbing linemen and doesn't always fight to engage. Take-on technique needs work. We don't really know what he's like in coverage. Despite those technical red flags, he's still one of the highest drafted off-ball linebackers ever. And then, before he even worked those issues out, he got named the best at his position in the entire league by people in the league. I can see how that might make you a bit complacent. I can totally imagine Devin White's mindset where he has just played the way he plays and he has gotten rewarded for it. He's gotten selected 5th overall. I mean, he got named the best linebacker in the league here, and he's still playing basically the same way. So why would he not be a top linebacker here? You know, that's probably where his head is at. He's a team captain. He's crucially important to this defense. He's put up a lot of sack, pressure numbers. And he's like, why are you making me play on the 5th-year option? How have I not earned a contract at this point? I want to go somewhere who actually respects me. I guess you don't respect me. And the Buccaneers are like, yes, you are crucially important. You are the perfect type of player for this defense, and we'd love to keep you around and have you hit your potential. But let's be real. You've been coasting these last several years. You haven't been playing up to that potential. You haven't met the standard. So for the first time, White is not getting what he wants out of football. He's not getting an offer from LSU. He's not getting picked 5th overall. He's not getting named as one of the best players in the league. He's getting disrespected by an NFL institution now. And I think what the Buccaneers want to see is Devin White playing with a real chip on his shoulder for the first time. Devin White playing with millions of dollars on the line when he can't assume it's just going to be given to him when he's making mental mistakes. They want to see if that brings out the best in him. And Devin White is like, fuck that. I don't want to go through all that. Trade me to somewhere who recognizes how much I've accomplished already and is willing to pay me right now. So let me summarize my personal thoughts and its overall my prediction on the situation. I think if I was a GM, personally, I would not be very interested in trading for and paying Devin White this offseason. If I did that, I'd see no reason for him not to remain complacent. I don't think that he would grow into the player he could be. I don't think he'd reach his potential. I think he'd continue making dumb mental mistakes that hurt the team. However, I would be interested in playing with Devin White with a chip on his shoulder, a disrespected Devin White that doesn't have a contract yet. Maybe that's the thing that turns him into the monster that he could be. Maybe this is unfair psychoanalysis. I obviously don't know how he is really feeling, but based on everything I know about him and what I've seen on tape, I would not be interested in playing with contracted Devin White. I would be interested, though, in playing with contract year Devin White with something to prove. I think that could spur a career best season, and it can only happen on the Buccaneers, and it's why I think he'll stay on the Buccaneers. I think the Buccaneers will value him higher than any of the teams around the league. I think that most Buccaneers fans want White gone at this point, and I would trade him away for the right thing, but I just don't think we're getting a premium pick or player from him across the league right now. I don't think that's where his value is. So if I'm not getting that, I'm bringing him back and hoping I can convince him to play this year. If he sits out, then maybe you move him before the deadline. But I would try to use this as an opportunity to coax a career year out of him. And maybe it doesn't work, but I'd try to keep him on board unless I got like a first round pick for him or something like that. So that's my take. Thank you for watching the video. I will see you next week with another All 22 review. See you then.